Arizona basketball or Arizona football finally received some very good news, which we're going to get to here. You're listening to Locked On Wildcats.
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for keeping it Locked On Wildcats. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, we've got a lot to get to today. So let's first talk about some good news. Now, we heard yesterday all the stuff about Dorian Singer leaving, and that was a bummer. I don't think that anybody would look at it and say that it wasn't a bummer. But I will say this. We're now at the stage where Arizona has received some good news, and this is some very good news, and that is that Jacob is returning. All right, Jacob Cowing is. I know a lot of U of A people were like, what's going on here? Why are you losing Dorian Singer? And this is just a guess on my part. I have no inside information on this, so please don't hold me to this. But I'm guessing when you've got two guys like that, two kind of alphas, it was probably a little bit of a decision as to, who's going to return, who won't return. And I'm assuming that the decision was made that Jacob Cowing would, it was probably just better for Jacob Cowing and for the U of A, and probably a little bit of a better fit to be able to just come back here. So again, we're now at the stage where Arizona, for a fact, with their receiving core, you've got Jacob Cowing, you've got Tmac, you've got Kevin Green Jr., you've got AJ Jones, and you're certainly going to be hitting the transfer portal. I don't know that there's any doubt about that. You're going to be hitting the transfer portal and probably going to be hitting that in a big way. Okay, now some of the things to get to here with Cowing's return. You got to remember that Jacob Cowing is, first of all, he led the nation in yards after a catch last year. And that's something you're just born with. A lot of guys just go down at contact. He is a guy that pretty much knows the ins and outs. I think it was Anthony Gimino that said he's a little bit like Trung Candidate, and when he sees that hole, he's just kind of gone. And I think that's a really good comparison right there. I think that he's going to be getting some NIL money in here. I'd be pretty surprised if he wasn't. But at the same time, I also think that he looked at it and he looked at the depth chart and he said, man, if it's me and Tmac coming back with another guy, I can put up some really good numbers again and really prove myself on a team that can take that next step. Where does this leave Arizona as far as their receiving core? It's amongst the best in the conference. It's really, really good. And honestly, you've got those guys. Then you've got Tanner McLaughlin. You've got Jayden de Laura throwing to him. Arizona is in very, very good shape right here at the receiving core position. So again, Dorian Singer, a loss, no doubt about it. But when you're returning Jacob Cowing, that really alleviates some of the concern right there. So again, big, big kudos. It also shows you too. It also shows you too just kind of where Arizona is now. That a guy like Cowing, who, make no mistake, is an NFL type player, that he decided that he wanted to come back for another year. That's some good stuff right there. I think that with Cowing, the one thing that really does kind of stick out to you is that you haven't had a guy. You haven't had a guy that has had this kind of, immediate impact in the transfer portal. You generally don't get that type of stuff. So again, him, Tmac, I think you're going to see an All-American type duo right there. Now, when it comes to some of the other stuff, though, that you're looking at from an Arizona football perspective, the defense is where you got to get to next. And the defense is certainly something you've got to address. So who's going to be that? We talked about it yesterday. Tyler Manoa, guy out of UCLA. Arizona would love to get him. That would certainly offset some of the Keon Barrs situation. But, at the end of the day, it's not a, you got Jacob Kongaika, you've got Tai Uiagalelei coming back. So that's obviously really, really good stuff for you. So Arizona's kind of set, I think, at those positions right there. Now, some of the other questions. Where is Arizona now looking at on the offensive side? Because you're probably going to lose Jordan Morgan. I don't think that there's really any doubt about that. You're probably going to lose Morgan. So who are going to be those next guys? But that's going to be up to Jedd Fisch. Jedd Fisch has shown from day one that he's got a propensity to be able to get guys from the transfer portal, and that, he overhauled the offense last year. He's really got to do it on the offensive side of the football this year, but he's also got to do it. On that front as well. So we'll find out exactly where they're at. But good stuff. This is just good stuff all the way around. There's no other way to put it. This is just good stuff. Now, where does this leave Arizona in the grand scheme of things when it comes to the portal? Because there's some other guys that left. So let's talk about it, but they don't really mean a ton. Jalen John, a running back. I actually like Jalen John a great deal. I think that he is I think that he's always shown when he he's always shown that he can pretty much ball out. But again, at Arizona, you're trying to go for that top 25 receiving situation, and that's not, a top 25 running back situation. And right now, that's just not something that's really in the cards for him. But wish him nothing but the best. He can play. All right, then you got a guy like a Woody Jean. Now, first of all, Woody Jean is a great name. I don't think, obviously Woody Jean, but he also is a player that, at that tackle position just probably wasn't quite good enough. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. Arizona is looking to be a top 25 type team next year. And with the way that Jedd Fisch is wired, with the way that he's going to try to bring in guys, some guys are just going to have to figure out, what they want to do really. And this is, this is kind of something where it's just kind of a numbers game. It sucks, but as the portal is good for some players, the portal can also be a little difficult for others. But it also gives them free reign. Now, let's just say that, when it comes to Arizona, you've got a spot right here where, you've got a spot that you can come in and play, but also at the same time, you also got a spot where you're probably going to get some guys who are just not going to be quite good enough, and they'll have other opportunities. You look at a Woody Jean, probably maybe go to a smaller Florida school. Chantrell Key, defensive tackle, might be able to do something in the Midwest. You got some other options right there. So again, certainly something to check out right there. Now, when it comes to the rest of this squad, I think that it's going to be fascinating to see exactly where Arizona goes on the defensive side. Obviously, very excited to have some of the players back that you are. Jackson Turner's a loss. Not really, not thrilled about that. But if you can get a Manoa in here, you put him next to a Savea. You've already got Kongaika and Uiagalelei at those defensive line positions. You should be okay. And again, Jedd Fisch has certainly shown that he knows how to navigate the portal. You look around the rest of the conference right here, and the normal players are going to be able to step up and be able to do some things that, when it really matters. So we'll find out. But again, good news, great news on Jacob Cowing coming back, because you can make the case that Jacob Cowing will be the top returning wide receiver in the entire conference. And he's all going to be a guy that's probably going to be getting some All-American type looks. Because, again, you watch him, he's got the ability to be able to sneak through. He's got the ability, quite frankly, not only does he have the ability to be able to sneak through, he can get into lanes and he can make people miss in a way that a lot of times receivers don't. He's got a little bit of that running back type vibe to him, and that's a special type vibe. So again, I expect Arizona on offense to take a backseat to essentially nobody in the conference. Now, USC is going to be interesting. They will always be interesting because, again, you return Mario Williams, you return Caleb, you return, some other guys. So they'll always be good. But I think that UCLA could take a step back. Now, again, all the rumors are that DJ Uiagalelei is going to go to UCLA. That doesn't really mean much to me, to be honest with you, because I've never been a huge fan of Uiagalelei. I've watched him, and I've thought to myself that, this is a guy that, just he's kind of living off his high school reputation. And again, there's nothing really wrong with that. But at the same time, he's also a guy that, there's just some issues involved with him that you watch him and you're like, he's just not that good. He's just not that good. He'll get there. He'll get there eventually, but he's also just not that good. So we'll find out again where exactly Arizona is, but big fans of what you're doing. Now, you look at the rest of this, you look at the rest of the conference. ASU is going to be a spot where it's like, okay. I think that I actually like bringing in Dilly. I think Dilly was a good. Hire for them. He's going to take some time though, because again, that's a pretty depleted roster right there. It's a lot like what Jedd Fisch inherited when Jedd Fisch took over. So again, I like the fact that Dilly is willing to grind. I think that he's going to get there, but again, that's going to take some time. I expect Arizona to be better than. Them next year. And I think that will, quite frankly, be. I think that should be a pretty easy one. Colorado. I always thought that Colorado was going to be better than Arizona is going to be better than Colorado. But Dion is also kind of a game changer there. He's going to be bringing his son, who we all know can play. He's also probably going to be bringing Travis Hunter. He's going to probably be bringing some other guys as well. I'll watch them. I watch them, and I think to myself that this is going to be a team that's going to be a lot of trouble for a lot of different teams. And Arizona, I think, should be able to hang with them, should be able to beat them if they really want to, but we'll find out. Now, we're going to talk a little bit of recruiting. This segment is brought to you by LinkedIn. All right, LinkedIn is the place you go for everything essentially that you want when it comes to jobs. Everybody knows somebody that's been hired by at LinkedIn and by LinkedIn because, again, LinkedIn works. Again, when something has been around forever, it generally means that it works. You don't find a lot of people that said, man, LinkedIn didn't work for me. LinkedIn works. Again, so you get the applicants you need for free, sponsored by LinkedIn, linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. You can post your job for free. Start getting the people that you need right now. Stop wasting the time that you have right now. Now, this is also a recruiting segment right here brought to you by LinkedIn. So looking around the city, the one thing that I think we do have is Arizona has two guys that they're certainly going to prioritize locally. And one thing about the Jedd Fisch staff that I'm a big fan of is that Jedd Fisch Jedd Fisch gets things that other people just don't get. Other people haven't gotten during their time at the U of A, and that's local recruiting. Sal Point matters. Sal Point is the one school in Tucson that you have to have a presence at. You look at it right now with Elijah Rushing and Keona Wilhite. These are both defensive linemen that are probably, Elijah Rushing's already emerged nationally, and he's going to be a big-time problem. Keona is another guy that he's big. I mean, he's just a big dude. I mean, a transfer kid from Santa Rita. One of his coaches told me about him a while back, said that this guy is going to be a really interesting proposition for other people out there. And certainly haven't seen anything that would dissuade from that opinion. So again, Keona Wilhite, a guy that Arizona certainly would love to have along with Elijah Rushing. All right, now let's take a quick break. We'll be right back with you, and we're going to preview some of the rest of the conference. Thanks for keeping it locked on, Wildcats. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, now let's get to some of the rest of the conference right here because there's a lot to get to. The first thing that I think that people need to look at and say that, all right, Arizona State, Colorado, Utah is always going to be solid. I'm just telling you right now that Utah will always be solid. There's never going to be a time when you're going to look at Utah and say, man, they're just not very good. Utah is generally going to be that team. They're going to be good. So, and that's just kind of the way it is. Then you've got UCLA. We talked about it. I think they take a step back. You look up north, you've got Oregon, you've got, will always be good. I don't think that they're ever going to really be great just because they can't, as well as they can recruit, they're just never quite big enough in the trenches. Washington is solid. Obviously, you got to love the job that Jayden de Laura has done there. But look at some of the other teams. Oregon State, Jonathan Smith has done a really nice job there. Washington State has done a good job as well. But, there's good teams up there. It's going to be interesting to see what Stanford does because, honestly, David Shaw's time certainly, I think, came to an end there because he just wasn't able to get those next level type guys. Again, he was really good for a while, but he was never able to make that next step. And when he wasn't able to make that next step, he kind of came back to earth. Stanford is a good job, but it's also a little bit of a niche job right there, and that you've got to have the specific type of person in there to be able to make Stanford work. So again, that's certainly something to keep an eye on right there. Now, with the rest of the Cal will be okay under Justin Wilcox, but Cal doesn't really prioritize athletics in a way that they probably should. So they'll always be a little bit behind right there. But Arizona, you've got to love where they're standing right now. And we're just going to talk about that in a second. But what I would tell you is BetOnline. What I would do if I was an Arizona fan, what I would say is, listen, when it comes to BetOnline, it's the number one sportsbook app out there by a mile because it's easy to navigate. People get on there and you know what? You say, all right, it's not confusing. I know what I'm supposed to do and it works. That's what's fun about BetOnline. Check it out. I told you before the year, take the over of Arizona with 2.5 wins. That was an easy cover. Arizona gets to 5. I'm curious what their line is next year, but you all know the only place that you need to go is BetOnline. They will get you all covered. And let's just talk. We're going to talk about it on the other side, where Arizona fits in the grand scheme of things. Thanks for keeping it locked on, Wildcats. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, now it's time to talk about where Arizona fits in the grand scheme of things when it comes to football right now. Listen, USC under Lincoln Riley, and again, they've only got one more year in the conference. We all know that, but USC under Lincoln Riley is going to be an issue. But they're going to be leaving here soon. So again, that's one team right there that you look at and you're like, all right, that's going to be an issue. Now, when it comes to the other teams, though, UCLA doesn't scare me. Colorado, again, I think they're going to get there, but it's going to take a little bit of time for Prime. I don't think there's any doubt about that. It's going to take a little bit for them. Now, the rest of it, I think, is that Arizona needs to be at the stage that they can compete with all these teams. Year 3 of Jedd Fisch, all these teams you should be able to compete with. And keep in mind, he competed against Utah in the past, USC. There's no teams that Arizona can't compete with, I think, especially in year 3 when you've got the kind of talent. So again, big tip of the cap to Jedd Fisch, because you got to remember that right now, Jedd Fisch is, he's done an amazing job overhauling this team. And I think you're going to continue to see that. You go from 1 win to 5 wins. Like I said, next year, I think you want to get into that 7 or that 8 win realm right there. And I think you're probably going to do that. But again, really good time to be an Arizona sports fan. As you know, we're up every single day. Tomorrow, we'll be back with you, breaking down even more transfer portal news. Just a good time to be a Wildcat fan. For all the people out there, really appreciate you. And we will be back with you tomorrow. Have a great rest of your Wednesday. And I'm going to have a great rest of your Wednesday. We'll be back with you tomorrow. Thanks for keeping it